But we're sitting here right now with Steve Gurley from Symon Communications, the VP of Marketing over there. Steve is equally as prolific when it comes to the idea of mobile integration with digital out of home. He's been a pioneer. His blog, steve-gurley.com, is one of the resources that I go to frequently when I'm kind of wondering about things to talk about in this space. Now, we want to start talking about, first of all, with Steve, that mobile is growing very, very quickly, and you mentioned it's growing about 4 times as fast as digital out of home is growing.
Yeah, if you look, Tony, at the way the industry is growing, the actual growth of smartphones, which is where the new trend is growing, is unprecedented. If you look at the market penetration for smartphones just a few years ago, in 2007, you were only at about 7%. Today, we should reach over 40% by the end of this year. Penetration of smartphones. When you consider in the U.S. there's 270 million phones, that's quite a bit of penetration. And we consider too that there's 5 billion phones worldwide. Smartphone penetration, even if it's just a small piece of that, represents a huge audience.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Now, you know, the United States is actually kind of an anomaly because they were so dependent on landlines for so long. Now, there's places, I mean, phone penetration in Africa is much higher as well because, you know, as a cell phone is easy, especially with the pay-as-you-go plan for people, especially mobile payments and different things. Now, mobile advertising and the different ways of using proximity marketing are also increasing. Could you talk about some of the ways that people use mobile to reach their customers?
Yeah, well, if you think about it in terms of how they reach their customers, you have to kind of segment it in a couple areas. If you look at the new usage model of smartphones now support applications. You know, we went from essentially a very small number of applications, less than a billion, 500 million approximately, 500 million smartphone applications that were purchased and downloaded between 1999 and 2009, and then between 2008, June of 2008, and today, you've got well over 10 billion downloaded. So you've got more downloaded in the past 2 years than you had downloaded in the prior 10 years. So the model's changing. Now, how people use their phones and how people can touch customers with their phone, there's a myriad of ways. But advertisers now are touching the customers through embedded ads. Mm-hmm. You have 2 major platforms today that going after that market. You have Apple with their iAd offering, mm-hmm. and you have Google with their AdSense Mobile. So with Google and Apple leading the ad market right now, advertisers are able to touch customers, millions of customers today, in a much easier way, much more effective way than they could before. So, how big is that market? Well, essentially, in the U.S. in 2009, the mobile advertising market was a little over 400 million. Last year, it was just short of 800 million, projected to be about 1.5 billion this year. Worldwide, it was just a shade short of $1 billion in 2009 and over $2 billion in 2010. So mobile advertising is growing. But if you look at the actual number of interactions, mobile interactions that have occurred just in the past 6 months, 100 million smartphones today create ad transactions every day. So 100 million smartphones will generate an ad transaction every day. So that's 4 times greater than it was 6 months ago.
So that we're seeing an incredible rise right now, which is not set to slow for the foreseeable future either. Now, with the way that people use their phones, I mean, most of the time when you hold your phone, you don't hold it above your head, you hold it in your hand where it's comfortable to hold it. This might actually be something that could detract from the efficiency of a digital signage network. How, because people they physically aren't looking at these screens, and you pay a lot of money to have an expensive screen, how can digital out-of-home network operators and integrators find ways to mesh that and take advantage of this growing industry with mobile in such a way that it benefits their networks and their investments?
Well, there's essentially 7 ways that I've written about that digital signage providers can touch mobile providers. You know, it's everything from the old voice response type application where you pick up your phone, you have a touch tone engagement, so you change signage via touch tones, so your phone is interacting with computer-aided telephony, which changes signage. There's QR codes. QR codes just represents one segment of 2D barcodes. 2D barcodes have been around since the 90s. They're starting to catch on today. QR code's one format, ShopRite I think is another, and you have Microsoft Tag. So you have about 13 different encoding schemes in 2D barcodes. But 2D barcodes is growing. You've got text messaging or SMS messaging as a way to touch. You've got proximity-based engagement, which is based on Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connections with cell phones. You've got web connections such as URLs, posting URLs on a screen. And you've also got mobile applications, so applications that are designed to integrate with digital signage content management systems so that the content displayed on the screen can also be seamlessly delivered to the phone.
Sure. And I think it's important to note here that it's not just a one-way street. When we're talking about the convergence between these two mediums, it's not just going one way. It's not just finding a way to tap into the mobile, but there's also ways to use the digital signage to promote the mobile too.
Absolutely. Digital signage is a good enabler and a catalyst for a mobile transaction. If you look at how the consumers today are acting and working, consumers are very much interested in personalization. You know, they want their own messages delivered in the formats that they find acceptable and compatible to them, and they want it when and where they want it. So if you look at that mobile use model, digital signage is good for helping them understand that certain mobile experiences are available for a particular location. So when the consumer may be buried in their smartphone, looking at their content, looking at their applications, dealing with their Facebook accounts, their Twitter accounts, whatever it may be, when they're engaged there, the digital signage is that thing to say, hey, there's something else that you might want to look at, and you want to look at it on your phone because I want to get personal. I'm not going to tend to interact with a display in front of 100 people, but I will interact with my phone in front of 100 people.
Absolutely, and that's a great point here. So for more information, steve-gurley.com, great resource for anybody who's interested in finding out some more information. So Steve, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tony.